Nice,
The
David.
dollar plunged to another 14-month low this morning after a researcher for the People's Bank of China said the country should move more money towards other currencies, the yen and the euro, away from the dollar. He later added it was just his personal view, not that of the government. The comments do, though, demonstrate China's growing influence. We should mention, by the way, the dollar has since come out of that slump and is now trading positive. That's leading to a downgrade in a lot of currencies. But joining us now is Gordon Chang, Forbes.com columnist and author of The Coming Collapse of China. And all of this is most important. I think the comments of this central banker are pretty beside the point because the dollar has since gone up and everything. But the key is the Chinese currency is tied to the U.S. dollar. And when the dollar goes down, the Chinese currency goes down. Now, that might sound bad, but that helps China, which is an exporting nation, sell its goods more cheaply.
Oh, certainly.
So they benefit from a low dollar and having their currency tied to it.
Well, certainly. But, you know, Chinese exports have been continuing to go down. They've been down now for 11 straight months. What's happening is that other Asian nations are starting to complain because they're also exporters and they're having competitive disadvantages against the Chinese.
We should mention the phrase is called beggar thy neighbor. What it means is that you lower your currency so that all of your competitors, the countries around you, have difficulty selling their goods because their currency, costs more to buy their goods. It's called beggar thy currency. Is that what they're accusing China of doing?
Oh, certainly. And what they're now doing is doing the same thing China is doing, which is accumulating dollar reserves to keep their currencies down. This is now spreading around Asia. It's a very bad tendency because it could mean that our whole concept of floating currencies goes out the window when nobody follows it.
And it is also dangerous because when this has happened in the past, historically, it leads to trade wars.
Oh, certainly. You know, bad currency policies drive out good ones, just like bad currencies drive out good ones. And we're starting to see that now. China has gone back to pegging its currency to the dollar very tightly.
Okay, the reason it leads to trade wars is there's no end to the depth to which you can drive your dollar, your currency down, and therefore that's when people begin to say, okay, I'm not going to get into this competitive devaluation anymore. I'm just going to prevent your goods from coming into my country. Is there that kind of trade barrier talk coming on?
Well, certainly, because, you know, right now the World Bank has said that global trade will decline this year for the first time since the Second World War.
And that's bad for everybody.
And that's bad for everybody. But in that type of environment, once you add another irritant, which is this currency problem, then things could really get out of hand because then you could have all sorts of problems that we saw in the 1930s.
Now, is China as robust as they would have us believe?
Well, they say they had 8.9% growth in the third quarter, but I don't think so. They probably had something half that because their exports were down, their imports were down. You know, their numbers are just not consistent. I think China's having problems right now, even though it has this enormous stimulus program. But, you know, I don't think it's really working the way they want it to.
Everybody I know who comes back from China says, gee, everybody's working everywhere. We don't see any signs of collapse. So what are you seeing that others are missing?
Well, the problem is that it looks good in terms of things, but they have maybe about $900 billion of stimulus in a $4.3 trillion economy. When you pour that much money into an economy in 11 months, of course you got to create some economic growth. But the problems are down the road because they are renationalizing the Chinese economy. They're creating bad loans in the banking system. And, of course, too much liquidity is going to affect the competitiveness of Chinese enterprises.
Are they squeezing out the smaller enterprises?
Definitely, because they can't get credit anymore. Credit is being diverted to state-sponsored infrastructure and to the largest state enterprises. There is one state enterprise manager who said that he was forced to borrow $49.2 billion this spring from 12 Chinese banks, and he doesn't know what to do with the money.
Wow. Wow. Well, the final question, I just got to look for one ray of hope. Is there any way China can pull out of this? Because our future is in a way tied to theirs.
Their problem is that they're continuing with really an economic model that is not appropriate for the current global conditions.
It's called socialism.
It's called, and it's getting even worse. They're going back to the old way of doing things.
Gordon Chang, The Coming Collapse of China is the name of the book. Good to see you again, Gordon. Thanks very much.